So inside the yellow and then inside the black folder, there is this one that says investigation 3, number 2. When you click on it, it should take you to this spreadsheet right here. So let me know once you're there. What's up, Katya? You can unmute your mic if you want.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm ready for spring break.
Of course.
Did you guys hear we're not going back?
I thought it was an April Fool's joke.
No, that would be a pretty bad
I
April Fool's joke.
What did it tell you guys?
Well, the district hasn't told us anything, but the message came from the governor. So
Oh.
yeah, I think it's statewide. I don't think any district is gonna go back. Um, so so that decision had to be reached by the governor because they're still giving the districts money and they're still paying us. So we have to keep teaching basically. But I don't know. I don't know how that's gonna happen. But we'll see. All right. Were you guys able to get here to the spreadsheet?
Yeah.
I was in the compound interest simulator. Is it
Oh
that
yeah,
one or?
not that one. No, that's a different link. That one's for later. We might get to that one, but that's not till problem number 8. But I put it in there. Okay, so you probably don't have all of this. Like you probably can only view it, I think. Like you're not able to go in and actually make changes, right? Say it again. Okay. I see you. I see. Okay, I see you.
I'm only able to.
You can only view, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead, go to file, and then make a copy for yourself so that you can edit. Okay. Are you guys there?
It's loading.
Okay. All right. In the meantime, let me just kind of walk you through like what's going on with that spreadsheet. So basically, from what we did last time, right, we had this set condition where the girl, same girl, so number 1 and number 2 is the same problem. When the girl was born on August 1st, the parents put $400 into a savings account. And then that savings account collected 3.2% annual yield. And then on top of that, they would then also deposit an additional 600 every August 1st. So we went through the process like kind of like mechanically, right? We found the first year, used the first year to calculate second year, then second year to calculate the third year, right? And so it was like this carryover process that we call recursive. And so what the spreadsheet does is that it basically does that for us. So I just wanted you to compare the values here, right? And let me kind of guide you through. So let me split the screen here. Let's go full. Okay, so do you see here where it says age 0? There's a deposit of 400.
Yeah.
And so then your account balance is 400, right? So all of this right here, so I want you to think of this as like something separate. So whatever's in this column is separate about what's going on. So the main thing to keep track of is the age, the amount that's deposited every year, and then the account balance. So whatever is in the account as the years go by, right? So when she's born, you start with that initial amount of 400. After the first year, right, year one goes by, there's a deposit of 600. And take a look at the account balance, right? The account balance there is the same as what we got in year one, right? 112 with 80 cents. Okay, then the next thing is, right, compare now year two. Again, another deposit of 600. The interest is working, right? So notice how it's 1645, and then obviously rerounded it to 0.21, but it's about the same. And then after year three, we have 2297 with 86, and then this is essentially the same thing, but it's rounded. So what the spreadsheet is doing is that it's keeping track of all of that through an internal equation and an internal calculation. So let me go back to this one up here, and I want you to notice what is typed right here, right? Do you see where it says f of x up at the top, and then right after is an equal sign? So on a Google spreadsheet, you can create these equations so that you don't have to continue to do this manually if you want to find out after, let's say, 18 years, right? Imagine having to do the same process that we did 15 more times, right? And so that's where the spreadsheet comes in handy. And so let me kind of show you how the spreadsheet got built, okay? So here we have some fixed values. If you notice right here where I put initial deposit was 400, this cell right here is D and 2. So D2 is going to be 400 all the time. Now, if I go back over here to where it says account balance and deposit, because the initial deposit won't ever change, it's just a flat 400 when she's born, I can utilize right here for 400, instead of typing in 400, I can go here and then actually type in. So if I delete it, right, it goes away. But if I want to show my initial deposit, I can type in equals and then D2. And now it tells me now my account balance was 400, right? Same thing here with that initial deposit of D2. Because we know that every year the recurring deposit is now going to be 600, right? We put that in a different cell. And this one here would be D4, right? So then every year you're going to deposit $600. So instead of typing in 600, you can go here and type in, I want my deposit to be 600 every year. So watch this. If I were to change the amount here, right, instead of it being 600, what if I changed it to 1,000? All of the cells over here also change to 1,000. So I'm able to create equations in each one of these cells because they are all equal to D4, and D4 right now is 1,000. So you can see why it's populating with 1,000 without me having to type anything. So let's go back to the 600. And so that's kind of how it's set up. So some of these cells, they are basically just equal to that recurring deposit, the same 600 that we had when we did it manually, all right? Okay, so now on the account balance, this is the important part because this is where the most of the calculation takes place, right? The account balance when she's age 0 is just 400. No interest has taken place. Nothing has been added into the account, okay? So now, how is it that then they were able to get the same amount that we got? Well, let me kind of show you what the equation is doing right now, right? So the equation is saying that it's equal to C2, right? C2 is 400, right? That's where C2 comes from. So it's the 400, right? Where did that come from with ours? It's right here, right? It's the product of the 400 on the other side, okay? Then parentheses 1 plus, right? That's also our equation, right? 1 plus. And then we had 0.032, right? That was the annual percentage yield. So instead of me having to type in 0.032 every time, I created the APY. I created a bracket here where I typed in the percentage yield that we were going to get every time. So then I could utilize that cell D6. Okay, so let me go back. So what we're doing is instead of C2, right, that's 400 times 1 plus D6, which is the 0.032, which is the same equation we had over here. We would get that amount, right? If we did it over here, if you look on the work that I have on the left side, that's where it multiplies together, right? And then at the end, you add B3, right? Well, what is B3? Well, B3 right there, you see highlighted in that light blue, that's the 600, right? So the formula does it for us, right? So what it's doing is it's just taking the amount from the cell before, multiplying it by the same percentage rate we always get, then it adds the 600 at the end, and then it gives us the amount. So notice how, right, for this one, it pulled from C2. Notice how if I click on the one right below, it's going to change from C2, it's going to go to C3, right? It's pulling C3 now because now we're utilizing for year number 2, that was the balance, which you would multiply times 1 plus 0.032. And then you add, well, in this case, B4 is still 600. Okay, so that's why it's able to kind of like keep building, keep building, keep building. So let's say now I wanted the age for year 5. Okay, and I know that the deposit is still equal to the cell D4. Okay, so okay, it's still 600. Here's where I need to build this equation. Okay, so it's going to equal, well, I know that, see, it's giving me a suggestion because it's already picking up what I've been doing. It's kind of figured out that I am doing this recursively. But in the case that I didn't want this suggestion, I want to build it myself. Okay, it's going to equal, well, I want the amount previous year, right? The previous year balance is the 2,971 with 38 cents. But instead of copying that information, I'm just going to select the cell C6. Okay, so I take C6. Okay, that amount is what you're going to multiply to your interest, right? You want to know how much interest you're going to earn from that. So then you multiply it, you're going to type in this, the product sign, which is shift 8. Okay, so now it's times, and then it's 1 plus, well, what was it? 1 plus every time? It's 1 plus the APY, it's the percentage yield. So then instead of typing in the number, you use the cell, right? So it's D6. Okay. And so after you've taken the product, right, it's going to tell you how much is your balance. Oh wait, let me let some people in here. Hey Angel, sorry man.
Sure, I've been staring at a blank screen because I thought you were gonna go on YouTube.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I posted on School G. Sorry.
Wait, Mr. Did you block my Netflix? Because I can't watch Netflix anymore.
Yeah,
It
I block
says
it.
that, like,
Go Guardian is still activated, so it does block your Netflix from 8 to 9:45. Once first period is over, then your
oh yeah,
Netflix is, yeah.
I was wondering. Like, it's okay.
Okay, I'll unblock it. I forget to do that. Okay. All right. So you kind of missed the first part, Angel, but I'll try to catch you up. Okay. All right. So you kind of missed the first part. I'll catch you. Angel, mute. I'm gonna mute you so that there's no feedback loop. Okay. All right. Okay. So the C6, right? That is the amount in the account balance from the year before, but that amount you have to multiply it times 1 plus whatever is in D6. Okay. After you multiply it by 1 plus 0.032, after that, that's when you add on the deposit. And so the deposit here would be whatever is in this cell, right? The deposit of $600, which would be B7. Okay. And so then that tells us how much money we would have after 5 years. Okay. So it's building this balance without us having to do it, just by simply utilizing the formula in Excel. So like, let's say now I wanted to find out the year that comes next, right? I could type in equals. Okay. No, I don't want that. Okay. And if I want the year, I want to use the year before to get the next year's. Okay. You want C7, right? So C7 times 1 plus your APY. Your APY is in D6. Okay. So you keep using D6. Okay. And then plus, oh, I got to put 600 here. Whatever would be in B8. Okay. Whatever is in B8, I would add that to it. Okay. So right now, since nothing has been B8, right, you see how this is just what it increased by, right? Because right now there's nothing in this cell. So it's like basically nothing got added. But you can see how from 3,666 to 3,783, that's how much interest was earned and then deposited back into the account, right? So now that new balance has increased a little bit, right? Once I determine that the deposit gets to go in, right? And I know that the deposit is 600, so I just set this cell equal to D4. Okay, you see how the account balance automatically, right, went up. And so obviously this is year 6. Okay, and so that's what's happening here with the spreadsheet. So I kind of wanted to show you guys how it works without having to do it manually. Okay, so if you refresh it, you should, since you have access to this, Angel, I know that you came in a little late, so you can find this under the period 1, under the yellow folder. If you open up that tab, then you'll see the black folder there. Inside of the black folder, there is the first link that says investigation 3, number 2. If you click on that, it should take you to this spreadsheet here. Okay, so this spreadsheet is basically just keeping the account balance year after year, as long as they keep depositing those $600 on top of the interest that she's earning. So this represents the same problem that we were working on Tuesday. Okay. So the reason why I wanted to show this is because as we continue going through the problem here, right, part A is asking you to discuss how is it that the C2 times the 1 plus D6 plus B3, how does that calculate the balance? Well, we talked about it already, right? C2 was the initial amount. Okay, so if they're asking about this particular problem here, right? How is it that it generates? Well, it takes the amount from the year before, it multiplies it times 1 plus the APY. The APY is 0.032. So you see how that's outlined in purple? That's what the D6 represents. It has a money sign in front of it. I don't really know why they use the money sign yet, because I don't really use spreadsheets too much. But basically, it's like a fixed amount that won't change. So you can use the dollar sign in front of the D and the dollar sign in front of the 6 to fix that amount so that that never changes. Okay. And then after that, once you multiply it, we would always add the deposit to the end. So that's why they're adding B3, whatever is in B3, that's the 600. So then it works recursively, because now the next step, instead of using C2, right, to get the next year, they use the amount that was in C3, right? To get C5, they use what was in C4, right? You see that right there. To get C6, they use what was in C5, and so on and so on and so on. Okay, so that's what's happening, and I wanted to show it to you so that if you did want to, if you had a problem that you're working on and it's asking for like, what do you get in year 15, right? Instead of doing it manually, you can just build a spreadsheet very much the way that this one is set up. Okay. Are there any questions about that so far? You guys can unmute yourselves and ask me if there's anything that doesn't really make sense.
I'm good.
You good?
Yeah.
Dave, you good?
Yeah.
Okay, Angel? Okay, never mind.
He's not there.
He's not there, yeah. Okay, all right, so then part B, it says to construct your own spreadsheet. Well, you already have it, right? Because I shared it with you, so go ahead and just keep using that one. And then it says, what is the balance in the account at the end of the 10th and the 18th year? Okay, so far we're up to year 6. They want us to go as far as year 10 and then also year 11. I'm sorry, year 18, 15, 16, 17, 18, right? So again, imagine having to have done that by hand, right? That's what we're trying to avoid, is like, this is how people calculate what they can expect their balances to be. They don't actually, financial managers, people who work in banks, they have these things that set up these recursive formulas to do it for them. Okay, so I want you guys to go ahead, and I think you can share your screens with me. So it won't show your face, it'll just show your screen, because I want you guys to build this part. All right, so continue to build it and see what you get for year 10 and year 18. So you're gonna have to go like one by one by one by one. But I wanna make sure that you guys are kind of getting the hang of it. All right, so let me open this up. I'm still kind of new at this whole Zoom thing. Nope. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, and then I'm gonna allow you guys to share. So you just have to hit this green button right here. and then that way I can see the spreadsheets and kind of see if
Wait, did it work?
I saw it for a little bit and then it went away. Did you stop sharing yours?
I couldn't click on anything. Wait, let me try it again.
What happens is when you share your screen, sometimes, here, let me show you. When you share your screen, sometimes what happens is, I'll share mine. It goes, you see this down here at the bottom. So then you might not be able to see us.
Oh, so you'll be able to see my screen, but I won't be able to see like the Zoom chat?
You should be able to, right here, there's this little thumbnail that pops up. So can you see my screen right here on the thumbnail?
Yeah, I just don't see the thumbnail. It's like just the textbook and the spreadsheet.
Okay, hold on.
Sure, how do you share your screen again?
Say that again, Angel.
How do you share your screen?
You just have to click down here where it says, hold on. So let me stop sharing mine. Actually, well, yeah. So on your screen, you should see this green button, and it should say share screen.
Oh, share desktop?
Yeah, share desktop.
Or
Hmm.
it says I'm sharing my screen now.
Okay, let me stop sharing mine. Maybe I can see yours. Okay, so I'm seeing David's screen right now. And then Angel.
Let me try again.
I still don't see yours. Because I set it so that, okay, there you go. So double click to enter. Yeah. Okay. Side by side. Okay. Okay, so all right, let me see. Let me share mine and then let me see. I don't know if it boots you once I start sharing mine. If I were to share this.
Oh, I think so.
It kicks you off, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, well then in that case, just follow my screen then as we kind of go through this. All right, so the deposit, notice how the deposit has not changed. It's 600 every year, right? That means that if you want to continue to fill in the rest of the cells for number 7, you want to hit equals, and then the recurring deposit amount is living here in this cell, which is D4. So you see how you can click equals and then highlight that cell 600 and then hit enter and it'll autofill. Okay. So go ahead and run through that all the way through first, because you know that that's not going to change. So you can hit equals 600, enter, equals, click on 600, hit enter all the way through. Okay, let's stop at 10 for now. And then we'll keep going to 18. Okay. All right, so now if we're trying to find out what the account balance is going to be at age 7, okay, here's where you're going to want to click, hit enter. All right. If you want to know what you're getting in year 7, you have to use the amount that was in year 6, right? So the amount that was in year 6, that right there is represented by cell C8. So you can either type in C8 or you can highlight this cell and it automatically brings it up there. Okay, so you want C8, but it's not just that amount. You're going to do something with it, right? So you take that amount and you multiply it by your interest, right? So when you're multiplying by your interest, remember it's always 1 plus whatever the interest is as a decimal. So it's 1 plus, and then you have the APY over here, right? In cell D6. So you can either, again, type in D6, or you can just select D6. And then it brings it into the formula that you have up here working, okay? After that, close the parentheses, because that's gonna give you, right? So if you just hit enter right now, it's gonna give you how much money you've earned just by interest, right? This isn't counting that the deposit that the parents are gonna put into the account after the interest has kicked in, okay? Does that make sense so far?
Wait, nah, I was kind of lost.
Okay, let me go back. Okay, so go ahead and unmute yourself so that you can just like ask as things come up. So for whatever cell you happen to be at right now, okay? Here on the account balance, always start by going up to where it says f of x and hit equals, okay? All right, let me bring it back to what is going on. Hold on, let me share something different. Let me share the whole screen. Okay, can you guys see my whole screen now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so every time we did this recursively, we would always have to take the final amount from the year before. So like if you look at part A over here where it says born, right? We had to take whatever there was, multiply it times 1 plus the interest. And then at the end, we added 600, right? And then we took that final amount of 1,012, then we reutilized it at the beginning of the next year, right? That's what we're doing here in the account balance column, right? All of this that's going on. So if I want to set up to see what my account balance is going to be for when she's 7 years old, I have to start with whatever account balance ended when she was 6 years old. Okay, so I'm using the very last, this value here. I need to start with that to calculate for next year. Okay, so that's where we said equal, and we're going to start with whatever amount is in that account at the moment. So at the moment, because year 7 hasn't finished yet, we have to start with year 6. So year 6 is the 4,383. So you're going to go equals, and you can click on the cell right above it, which is C8. Okay. So now the formula is pulling that in, and it's saying you're going to take this number and you're going to multiply it by the interest, whatever amount of interest that it's going to earn. Right. So how do we calculate interest? This is where manually you have to type in Shift 8. So the Shift 8 is the multiply sign, okay, parentheses. You're going to multiply that amount by the same thing that we've been doing on paper, right? So on paper, we've been multiplying by 1 plus the APY, all right? So then I have to type in 1 plus. Now, instead of typing in the APY number, since I have the APY saved over here in this cell as 0.032, you can just click on it, click on the number, and do you see in the formula, it populated it in purple, right? So it's saying D6, it picked it up. Okay, now close the parentheses. Okay, does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now that if we were to hit enter, right? So if you hit enter, look at the amount. It goes from 4,383 to 4,524. That obviously was not including the $600 deposit that they always put into the account every birthday, right? So this is simply going to tell you how much money, right? Click on the formula. This is just going to tell you how much money is in there now based on what it earned through the interest, okay? Not the additional deposit. If you want to include the additional deposit, then this is where, just like we would do, you see how we added 600 at the end? Then we have to do plus, and when you're adding 600, you go over here right next to this cell, right? Because that cell already contains 600. So it's going to add whatever total was in B9. So B9, that's 600. So now if you hit enter, then this truly shows you how much money she has now, because now this is showing what she earned in interest, which is the first part of the formula. And once you add the 600, that's the B9. So then that tells you how much money would be in the next, it is in the account now. Okay. So if, let's say, are the questions there?
Nah.
Okay. So, all right, you guys help me out this time. If you want to fill in the next cell, if you want to go for year number 8, what's the first thing you have to type in?
Equals.
Okay, equals.
And then
Which amount are you going to use now?
the one above it.
The one above it. So what cell is that?
C9.
C9. Yeah. So instead of, you can either type in C9 or you can just click on the cell above it and then it auto populates.
And
Okay.
then shift 8.
After that, what?
Shift 8.
Yeah, shift 8, your multiply sign. Yep.
Parentheses.
Parentheses.
1 plus the D6.
Yeah, D6, because that's your APY, right? So it's always going to be multiplying by that percentage. Okay. And then what?
Plus
Plus.
the 600. So
This-
B10.
Yeah, the 600. So that's why you want that deposit already pre-filled, right? So then you can just go over here. It's the 600 every time, but you want the one that's right next to your working equation. So that's 600. So you can click on it where it says B10. And then now you can hit enter. And then that tells you how much is in the account now. Okay. Does that make sense, Angel and Katya?
Yeah.
Okay. So try to get through the last 2. And then let me know what you get here for cell number 10. Okay. Any luck so far?
I was about to finish last one.
Okay.
Up to number 10, right?
Yeah, up to number 10 for now. Yeah.
Is it alright, say the answer.
Yeah, go ahead. What do you get?
Is it 5,888?
That's cell 10. I mean, I meant year 10.
So was that 11 or?
So that would be cell number 12.
Oh, alright.
In order to like find it out, so we get the number, like we get the like in order to find out, we get the number from C10, and then we multiply it by 1.032, and then add 600.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So is C11 6,676.416?
Wait, hold on. Read off the equation, the formula that you got. I know it's C10. 1 plus.
Oh yeah. So I did so I got the number from C10, and then I multiplied it by 1.032,
Mm-hmm.
and then I added the $600 deposit.
Okay. So then your equation here should have been. And is that what you got?
Yeah.
Okay. You're doing it manually, right?
Yeah, I got like the last the 3 digits after the dot. I got 416, not 469.
Yeah. So you were probably off a little because you've been rounding it.
Oh, okay.
That's probably why. But it's like it's just a few cents, so it doesn't really affect it too much. But
Wait, so what
The-
was the answer for 12?
say it again.
What was the final answer for 12?
Oh, for 12? Okay. So then here equals, you want the value from the cell above it times 1 plus the APY, and then plus, oh wait, oops, I forgot times. And then plus B12. So this should have been 74.90
All right.
Yeah.
with
Yeah,
12.
I got that.
You got that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Okay. All right, so then let's see, is this gonna give me a suggestion? Maybe, no. Okay, let me just build it, see what we get at the end of 18 years. I just figured out how to do this yesterday, so don't feel bad if you don't feel comfortable. What would be next? Okay, C times 1 plus I know, see, like what's funny is like if you go cell by cell, you have to type everything in, but there's actually like there's a more sophisticated way, like using Excel sheet, where you can actually generate the formula and it does everything for you. Like I just don't know how to do it yet. This is like really tedious. Times 1 plus PY plus 600. Okay. So that's what should be her in her account after 18 years of savings. Okay. And so that's what number 2 is basically all about. Just kind of getting familiar with how to use spreadsheets. So if you ever run into a similar problem, right? All you have to do is change the amounts. So for example, watch this. If the initial deposit would have been, let's say 600 instead, watch how it's going to generate an entirely new list of numbers, right? Every number changed because it was based on the working formula, right? Whatever was in D2, that affected everything else. What if the recurring deposit, instead of being 600, was 1,000? Right? You can see how then the entire list of deposits changes to 1,000, and then it also affects everything in the account balance, right? Watch if you would change the APY, right? So instead of the percentage, remember this was only 3.2%. What if it would have changed to be 0.05, which would make this a 5%, right? It adjusts everything, right? So that's the benefit of having this, because with this already in place, you can then change it to whatever the situation is without you having to do it every single step, right? Which is the most kind of like annoying part. Okay, so let me just change it back. So initial was 4, recurring was 6, and then the APY was 0.032. Okay, so do you see why that's pretty, like, I think it's cool. It's pretty helpful, and that's essentially how estimates are made on, you know, what you can expect down the road based off of where you started, what your deposit is, and what you're yielding every year. Okay. So how do we feel? Are we okay on this kind of like general? It's like a very general introduction, but do you guys feel okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So one quick thing before we go. If you're following along on the book, I'm gonna skip number 3 because number 3 is like this. It's like this really confusing problem. So I'm gonna skip it. I'm gonna go to number 4, and I'm gonna introduce a new formula now. Okay, so I'm actually going to. I'm gonna stop my share temporarily. I'm gonna share just my just this part here. Okay. Can you guys see my my page right here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. So number 4, basically, what it does is introducing this new formula, which kind of builds off of number 2. Okay. So what we get is this future value formula. And the reason why this future value formula is different from the other ones that we have. So let me just kind of recap. The other formula that we had was F equals A times 1 plus R over N to the N times T, right? This was the compound interest formula. And, oh wait, interest. And the few things we had to know was that A was initial deposit, right, or initial investment. The N was the compound number. So this represented like monthly, weekly, okay, etc. The R was the rate, right? And then T was the time in years. Okay. All right. So that's what we had. But what made this formula here not effective when you think about a problem like number 2 or number 1, right? How was it not very helpful? What was it about number 1 that we had to do that we couldn't just use the formula? I like how Katya mutes her microphone when I ask a question. Okay,
Okay, because
the reason
in the
so
background.
the reason why this formula wasn't very helpful with a problem like number one was because there was an additional $600 being deposited every month. So this formula right here would not have taken into account the 600 anywhere, because you can input initial deposit, you can input how many times it gets compounded in a year, you can include the rate, and you can include the time. But what variable are you going to put for recurring deposit? Right? Where is that going to fit in this formula up here? Right? It doesn't, right? So that's why we had to go through and then calculate how much you get based on the interest and then add 600, right? So it's this adding 600 part that makes this formula not very useful. Okay, so then that's why we have a different formula now that does include, right, with recurring deposits, right? So it's a new formula that's going to allow us to calculate what you can expect 18 years down the line if every month or every quarter or every year you're depositing something new. Okay, so that's the difference between what the old formula could do and now what the new formula will be able to do. All right, so this new formula is F equals, and it's pretty long. Okay, oh no battery, hold on. Okay, so it's F equals, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it's F equals I times 1 plus R to the T plus A times, there's a fraction here, okay? And on the numerator, it's 1 plus R to the T minus 1 all over R in the denominator, and close the parentheses. So let's just talk about what these variables represent now, okay? Because now we have I and we have A. Okay, so they change a little bit here. So let me get a different color. Okay, so for this new future value formula that can include recurring deposits, here's what I represents. I represents, this will be the initial deposit. That would be here. Or investment. Okay. A, right? So now you have I and you have A. So A switches. A is now going to be, this is the amount deposited every compound period. Okay, now, so why is it every compound period? Well, because it could be that they deposit every year, or it could be that they deposit every month or every week, right? So it just based off of how many times they're going to be putting that deposit in per year. Okay, so it's not necessarily like per year, because if something is quarterly, then that means that they're going to be inputting every 3 months. They're going to deposit. Okay, does that make sense? The difference between I and A.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. R is still going to be, okay, the rate. And then T will be years past. Okay, so time. Okay. So everything else, right, pretty familiar. It's just understanding now that I will truly be the initial, how much you actually started the account, how much you put in. And then A will represent how much money you're plugging in every month or every 6 months or every whatever, right? So just to wrap up here and just to make a comparison, for part C on the textbook, let me pull in the question. You know what? No, I don't need the book. Okay, so now we want to compare, we want to use this formula to see this is for part C now. What is future value of Lucy's college savings account after 10 years? Okay, and then we just want to compare formula value. Okay, well, whatever we get from the formula versus what we got on the spreadsheet. Okay, just to see how accurate this formula is compared to what we got in here. Okay, so we know year 10 based on the spreadsheet, we should be looking at about 7,490 with 11 cents. And so now let's use the formula. Okay, so F equals the initial investment was 400. So F equals 400 times 1 plus the rate. Remember, the rate was a 3.2% APY. So that just translates into 0.032. And the time would be 10. Okay, so after 10 years, power of 10. Okay, plus this right here now represented the amount of money that is going to be generated by every deposit, right? So A was the deposit every compound period. Well, it was only done once a year, so it's only compounded annually. All right, so then we can go ahead and say this is the 600 times, okay, remember this is a fraction, 1 plus the rate, so 1 plus 0.032 again. The time is still 10 years minus 1, and then all over your rate, which is again 0.032. Okay, so this is ugly, so let's clean it up a little bit. This would be 400 times this 1.032 to the 10th power plus 600 times 0.032 to the 10th power minus 1 all over 0.032. Okay, so we can basically just do this by parts. Okay, so let's find out here what this first half is going to give us. Then we'll calculate this second half. And then we'll just add them together. Okay, so we have 1.032 power times 400. Oops. So 548 with 0.096 plus. I'm going to start from that numerator. So I'm going to go ahead and take that 1.032 to the 10th power. Okay, from that, we subtract 1. And then this gets divided by 0.032. Okay, then that amount, multiply times 600. Okay, so that's 6942.01. Okay, so now we can add this up. And we got 7490. Okay, so this is what we get from final value. And then from the spreadsheet, 7490 with 11. Yeah. Okay, so it's the same. And so now we don't need to go through that spreadsheet process because you have a formula here that works for you and can tell you after 10 years, after 20 years, after 30 years, right? If it continues in the same trend, you know exactly how much money you'll have at the end of that period. Okay. Any questions, guys?